I'm Birdie, and this is Clown Cows. Today, we have an uncomfortable topic, but I think that it's a reality for many. This is the reality of having a family member who is super morbidly obese, and the truth of what happens when that person passes. Can they be buried? Are they too big for cremation? Are funeral services available if the casket is several feet wider than a standard casket? What facilities might accommodate those who are larger than life? And do those specialized facilities cost more? I think this is something that most of us have at least pondered over the years, particularly if you teeter around on the side of the interwebs where the lolcows live. Many characters that we watch are struggling with their weights, and, as life has it, we all die. For most of us, it'll be a sad but normal occurrence when we pass. But what happens when one's death becomes like a circus? When the person is too fat to fit on standard gurneys, in a standard casket, too fat to fit in the back of a standard hearse, and too fat to fit in a burial plot at a local graveyard. What happens when the person is too fat to fit inside the incinerator for cremation? And yes, people can indeed be too fat for cremation. I'm not exactly sure what got me thinking specifically about this topic. Perhaps it's just the morbid reality of it all. I mean, everything of flesh with a beginning has an end, right? So, if you're ready to face that truth, we can take a cold, hard look of what it means to be left with the responsibilities of laying to rest a person who allowed themselves to get too big to bury. I decided to Google, can a person be too fat to bury? And surprisingly, the answer was yes. You see, a standard burial plot, on average, is around 7 feet long and 3 feet wide. This, of course, includes the space for the casket. If a person is any larger at all, then the family must find a plot where there's an adjoining plot and purchase both plots. It's kind of like needing to purchase two airplane tickets. And if two plots still isn't large enough, you'll need to purchase three. But good luck finding three plots that adjoin because that can be difficult, and the costs can be absolutely astronomical. That is such a financial and logistical burden to put on the family of the deceased, isn't it? But wait, because it gets even better. All of that happens after the corpse has been retrieved, and that in itself can be another beast to bear. Imagine someone passes away at home, and they live alone. Maybe they have pets, but no people are around. The family later discovers the body, and emergency services are called. After telling the operator that your loved one has passed away, you'll then need to request an ambulance with a trolley or gurney large enough to transport their 600-plus-pound body. Now, keep in mind that someone who is 600 plus pounds on a very short frame may have the physical circumference or measurements of an 800-pound person of a normal height. Believe it or not, there are specialized gurneys for those who are extremely obese. You'll also possibly need to request the fire department to help lift the person onto the sheets to be placed onto the gurney. If the gurney doesn't fit through the deceased person's door, then the fire department may need to use equipment to take out a wall or otherwise to widen the opening to the doorway in order to get the person's body out. That would really cause a scene, especially in an apartment complex or if neighbors are close by. Then they'll go to the hospital to be declared dead and possibly have an autopsy performed to determine the cause of death if it's not something obvious, like a bad fall, and especially if the death was unexpected. Once the medical examiner clears the release of the body, the funeral home of the family's choice can arrange to transport the body, either for a funeral service or to be cremated or aquamated if the body is too big for standard cremation. The funeral director will inform the family if the body is too large for standard cremation, which is typically up to 350 pounds. Beyond that, the body would need special accommodations to be sent to a facility that can cremate or aquamate the remains. In this case, the director will let the family know what those added expenses due to the supermorbid obesity will be. If the family opts for a traditional funeral service and burial, the funeral director will have to have the difficult conversation of telling the surviving family that their loved one is too fat to funeral. Unless, of course, they can pay the price. That would entail a casket that can cost up to $4,700 more than a standard casket. Plus, the family will need additional pallbearers. And get this, even the hearse will need to be upgraded to one that is built for such a large casket, as most hearses are only equipped for standard coffins that are no more than 3 feet wide. Beyond that measurement, even the vehicle won't be large enough. If the family is able to have an actual funeral, I hope they're wealthy, or if not, and if there's no burial insurance, I hope they were listed as a joint owner of the wealthy deceased person's bank account, because buying 2 or even 3 plots will cost thousands upon thousands, as well as all of the other expenses.
But thanks for your hard-earned money.
And, as many may already know, you can't just use a dead person's bank account to pay for their funeral if you're not an authorized user on their account. Just think of the financial burden that will be placed on those who are just trying to lay the person to rest, not to mention the stress of trying to jump through the necessary hoops to find the facilities that can even accommodate such a massive undertaking. While reading online about options for the burial of the supermorbidly obese, I came across a type of cremation that I'd never heard of before. It is done by using water and alkali salts, such as potassium hydroxide. This eliminates all of the person's body except the bones. The bones are then easily turned into ash and placed in an urn for the end of life services if there are to be any. As I was reading and learning about the struggles of supermorbid obesity, especially the post-mortem issues that arise, I couldn't help but question why I wanted to even make this video. Why did I want to talk about this? And that made me realize that what I'm really thinking about is the selfishness. This video is really about the selfishness that is behind supermorbid obesity, particularly in those who have a choice and can make a change. It seems so incredibly selfish to consciously and deliberately stay active in one's known food addiction, especially when there is full awareness of death looming. From one health scare to another, new physical health diagnoses, the person admitting that they're gaining due to how they do or don't fit into a car or medically necessary health machines, and even the person's admission of basic decline in mobility. It's so selfish for that person to not only continue with the nonstop eating, but to continue eating enough to be actively gaining daily. Who knows, though? Maybe those types of people are doing it on purpose. Maybe there came a moment of clarity where they figured it was just too late for them, and maybe they knew how difficult of a time their family would have getting their remains taken care of. And maybe, just perhaps, it's that person's last intentional fuck you to the family they never forgave and always manipulated and used. But time will tell how it'll all inevitably go down, right? Because we all have to die eventually. But even then, I think I'll still wonder why someone would choose that type of legacy. What do you girls think? What are your thoughts about the aquamation? Had you ever heard of that before? Have you ever had a family member who was too big for a standard funeral or too big for a standard cremation? Do you have any first-hand experiences of that stress, that dilemma, that shock? I can't imagine how that would feel, but if you'd like to share your stories, let me know. What do you think about someone choosing to remain super morbidly obese when they have the options, the finances, the know-how to turn their life around? Is it selfish or is it just a mental health problem? Let me know what you think. I hope you all enjoyed this video and I hope it's given everyone something to think about. I'll see you girls later. Bye for now.